This week, the United States approved the sale of its most advanced AI chips to China's 10 largest tech companies. Not one single chip has been sold, by the way. Beijing told every one of those companies to hold back and buy domestic instead. And on the same week that happened, the CEO of NVIDIA accepted a seat on the advisory board of Xi Jinping's old university. So when you see those two things in the same sentence, you are looking at a chip war that just flipped in a direction that nobody expected. I didn't see that coming. Let me give you the full picture of how we got here. Since 2022, the United States spent 3 years building a massive wall around its most advanced semiconductor tech. The main goal was to keep NVIDIA's best gear out of China and slow down Chinese AI development. We saw export controls, entity lists, license rules, the whole heavy apparatus. NVIDIA's actual share of China's advanced AI chip market was sitting at roughly 95% at the start. The US government treated that market dominance as a total threat and moved in to kill it. Then, this month, the administration, Trump, in the visit to Beijing, basically reversed course. The H200 chip, one of NVIDIA's most powerful AI accelerators, was cleared for sale to 10 of China's largest firms, Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance, and 7 others, with each approved for up to 75,000 units. That is a generally massive U-turn after 3 years of running an entirely opposite policy. And it produced absolutely nothing. Not one sale, even if we know that China needs those chips. So, the mainstream press covered the chip approval as a U.S. concession to China, a trade war softening. Trump always chickens out, or a diplomatic olive branch. But what they completely skipped is what happened the very day after the approval landed. When the H200 approval hit the desk, Beijing directed its firms to back off and buy domestic instead. Every single one of those 10 companies approved for up to 75,000 units each fell in line. They had to say no. All right, we won't buy them. Now, look, this is the part that requires some real context. China's domestic chip industry has been building toward this exact moment for 3 years, specifically because of those U.S. export controls. Huawei has been grinding on its own AI accelerator chips. DeepSeek built an AI model that shocked the whole industry by hitting competitive performance on hardware built entirely at home. Chinese suppliers now hold roughly 40% of China's AI accelerator server market. 2 years ago, that number was essentially 0. So, when the US finally opened the front door, China already had another door ready to go. NVIDIA CEO acknowledged exactly what happened. NVIDIA's share of China's advanced AI chip market, once sitting pretty at roughly 95%, has effectively fallen to 0 in this 3 years. And 3 years of U.S. export controls did not stop Chinese AI development at all. They just accelerated Chinese chip self-sufficiency, even if the yield of that chip manufacturing is very bad. They basically throw 6 out of 10 chips that they make to the trash because they don't work. Here's the part that makes the chip war setup even more complicated. An analysis of semiconductor engineering talent published this week notes that most of the best engineers at both AMD and NVIDIA are based in Shanghai. Alright? Not Palo Alto, not Santa Clara, Shanghai. The teams described include AMD's core architecture engineering group and other teams specifically focused on first principles chip design. Those engineers are American company employees. They work on the most technically sensitive parts of next-generation chip architecture, and they live in China. The export controls restricted the physical chips. They did not and cannot restrict the actual engineers. And the engineers are, by any measure, the more valuable asset in a long-run competition. So this is the piece of the chip war that the policy guys in Washington consistently avoid. You can put a chip on a blacklist. You cannot put a PhD on a list. At least not yet. Now, here's where Jensen Huang's behavior becomes the most interesting signal of the week. Huang accepted an invitation to join the advisory board of the School of Economics and Management at Tsinghua University in Beijing. Tsinghua is Xi Jinping's alma mater. The board chair is Tim Cook of Apple. And also sitting on it are the CEOs of Tesla, Microsoft, and Meta, alongside the heads of JP Morgan and BlackRock. The combined net worth of that specific room approaches $1 trillion. So think about the posture that board represents. The CEOs of every major U.S. tech company and every major U.S. financial giant sitting in an advisory role at the premier Chinese Communist Party University at the exact same moment the U.S. government is running a 3-year campaign to tear apart U.S. and Chinese tech ecosystems. And Beijing is welcoming them in with open arms, while simultaneously telling those same companies' Chinese clients not to touch their chips. I understand. It's complicated. It's complicated, but this is what we are dealing with. What China is signaling here is highly layered. To its domestic audience, we do not need what they are selling. To the American executives, you are welcome here. We value you. Keep showing up. To Washington, we can absorb your sanctions and your reversals. We are not desperate. And you need us way more than you admit. So the Tsinghua board is not some academic research project. It is a room where the most powerful American executives feel honored, observed, of course, with many cameras, I guess, and certainly in debt. And the most powerful American executives keep accepting the invitation. The behavior worth profiling here is not Xi's. Xi is doing exactly what any strategic boss does when he holds the leverage. He creates proximity while projecting total independence. The behavior worth looking at is why Huang, Cook, and every other member of that board keeps saying yes. The answer likely is that China is still the largest electronics manufacturing market on the planet, and no publicly traded company can explain to its shareholders why it walked away from that market permanently. No, that cannot happen. So the CEOs show up, they sit on the board, they stay close, they smile, pose for the cameras on the walls, and Beijing keeps the door open just wide enough to make walking through it feel like the rational choice. This is how it works. So the main thing to watch is whether any of those approved H200 units actually move in the next 60 to 90 days. If they do, Beijing's domestic first policy cracked under commercial pressure, and they are under a lot of commercial pressure. If they do not, China will have demonstrated it can turn down American technology concessions without any political cost, which completely changes every future negotiation about semiconductors, AI access, and trade leverage. The Micron story connects right here too. A memory chip company crossed $1 trillion in market value this week, moving faster than any company in history on the exact same AI infrastructure demand that China just declined to feed from US suppliers. If you want my deeper analysis on geopolitics and the behavior of the people who run the world, go to check my blog, thepowerpundit.com. I can say things there that I prefer not to say anywhere else. Link in description. And share this video with your family and friends so they know what's really going on. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Power Pundit. Much love and bliss.